is VOA News. I'm David Byrd. Russia and Turkey have agreed to a ceasefire deal in Syria's Idlib region after talks in Moscow between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey to contain a conflict that has displaced nearly 1 million people. Reuters' Matthew Larotonda has more.
As part of the ceasefire agreement, Russian and Turkish troops will conduct joint patrols together in Idlib. But this isn't the first time they've done joint patrols there, nor is it the first ceasefire. Syria has gone through several ceasefires. All have collapsed. And while Putin expressed his condolences for the deaths of Turkish troops, both sides have blamed each other in the past for failure to coordinate and avert such events. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan says his country reserves the right to respond to any attack by forces loyal to Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. In the meantime, he says Turkey and Russia will work together to supply humanitarian aid. The civilian toll has been profound. The United Nations believes the fighting in Idlib has sparked what may be the worst humanitarian disaster of the 9-year war.
That's Matthew Larotonda of Reuters. Another Democratic presidential candidate, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, has bowed out of the race. We get more from AP's Shelley Adler.
I am suspending my campaign for president.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, who was then asked, who will you endorse?
Let's take a deep breath and spend a little time on that. We don't have to decide that this minute.
Warren never finished higher than third in the first 4 states and was routed on Super Tuesday. She failed to win any of the 14 states voting and finished third in Massachusetts behind Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Shelley Adler, Washington.
For more on these stories, be sure to visit our website, voanews.com. This is VOA News. Countries around the world continue to take increasingly stringent measures to combat the spread of the deadly coronavirus as the number of new cases in China begins to wane. The World Health Organization said there are about 17 times as many new cases of COVID-19 outside China as there are within its borders. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says countries need to prepare for the impact of the virus.
Countries have been planning for scenarios like this for decades. Now is the time to act on those plans.
Australia on Thursday joined China and Iran in banning travel from South Korea, which has more than 6,000 cases. Iran, with 3,500 cases of its own, said schools and universities would remain closed until March 20th. Italy has shut schools and universities until March 15th. The United States has had 12 deaths from the coronavirus. Many of those cases in Washington state have been linked to an outbreak at a nursing facility in the Seattle suburb of Kirkland. The U.S. Senate voted 96-1 to approve $8.3 billion in emergency funds to fight the virus. Airlines could lose between $63 and $113 billion in revenue for passenger traffic globally in 2020, depending on how the coronavirus spreads. Brian Pierce is the chief economist with the International Air Transport Association.
That's a serious shock. It's double what we had been expecting for just the Asia-Pacific region, as now this situation affects airlines globally.
Pierce said the last time the industry faced a revenue shock of this magnitude was in 2009 during the global financial crisis. The International Criminal Court has given the go-ahead for prosecutors to open a probe targeting the Taliban, Afghan forces, and U.S. military and CIA personnel for war crimes. AP's Charles de Ledesma reports.
After a preliminary probe that lasted more than a decade, prosecutor Fatou Bensouda asked judges in November 2017 to authorize a far-reaching investigation. She said there is information that members of the US military and intelligence agencies committed illegal acts, principally in the 2003-2004 period. Today's decision gives Bensouda the green light. Washington, however, has long rejected the court's jurisdiction and refuses to cooperate with it. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Wall Street closed lower on fears about the impact of the coronavirus. The Dow was down 3.58%. For more, visit voanews.com. I'm David Byrd, VOA News.